Hello, Horror Fanatics. I'm Frank.
And I'm Jen, and we welcome you to our weekly podcast,
The Horror. Thank you for joining us as we dive deep into all things horror, supernatural, scary, and downright creepy.
If you like what you hear, rate, review, and subscribe to add us to your regular rotation of podcasts.
You can also submit any ideas, comments, and suggestions to our email address at oth@seriouslydecent.com. And you can check our website out at thehorrorpodcast.com.
Sure, you can check it out.
Yeah. I'm wondering how hot my tea really is. I'm going to find out right now.
I see steam.
And it's still hot.
Well, I mean, it really only sat for a few minutes.
I think it's the Batman mug.
Yeah, it's just too good.
It's too tough.
It's too good a mug.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know, man.
I don't know either.
We've got that Jack Skellington mug.
We got
Try
a lot
that
of
one.
We got a lot of mugs. We always have mugs.
Yeah.
When's your gnome come?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. They don't give me a daily tracker.
Oh, they don't give you any kind of tracking information or whatever?
I mean, they give you,
They
but
just take your money and they're like, it's on the way.
That's not how I do things. I'm not stalking it every single day to see where it is.
I don't know. The moment I know I have a package on the way, I need that stuff right at my fingertips.
Yeah, no,
Even though I know I'm not going to be home when it arrives,
I don't have that.
it's just the knowing that when I come home,
Yeah.
it's going to be there.
Yeah.
It'd be whether it's a guitar or some tea.
I'm going to start hiding shit then.
Honestly, you don't have to hide shit. You just have to let me forget about it, which is quick. Real quick.
Well, you'll come in all
Who
excited.
moved this?
Where's my thing?
Where's my thing?
What thing?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. And then that's when the horror takes a turn. And we lose a co-host.
Oh, the horror.
Horror.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Mm-hmm.
Have our own true crime episode.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Wicca today.
Yes.
Wicca you? Wicca what? No?
Okay.
All right. Fine.
I mean, it's just generally not something that I associate with Wicca.
That's why I'm going to get into Wicca.
Hey, you're gonna spice it up for everybody.
I'm going to kick it up a notch.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You're gonna emerald that shit.
Maybe.
Bam!
Put some Bam sauce on it. Bam sauce. For crying out loud. Yeah, Wicca. The modern Western witchcraft movement. So they say.
Yeah. I have one source, Wicca, A Guide for the Solitary Practitioner by Scott Cunningham.
One source.
Solamente uno.
Wow.
Yes.
I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sources.
I mean, I have several books, but this is the book I used.
Yeah. And your brain matter upstairs, you have your lady brain.
My lady brain.
Which is an amazing lady brain, by the way.
It comes up with some stuff.
I know we come up with the lady brain term here, and we're not joking about how dumb Jen is. Jen's lady brain it's a piece of work. It should be in a museum.
Many times it is in a museum.
Yeah.
I love me a good museum.
Yeah.
I'm about due for a museum.
I have Britannica. I have Wicca.org, the Church and School of Wicca, because I needed to see what that was all about.
Of course you did.
Of course. And then there's a military site for Wicca. Off the military.
At one point, when I was filling out applications and things, and you could list your religion, Wicca has been showing up as an option on like applications and the like.
I have a document from defenseculture.mil, M-I-L. That's a military extension.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And they have a 2-pager on Wicca.
Mm-hmm.
We'll get into that later.
Okay.
The BBC, which this page they said was archived and no longer updated.
Awesome.
I love when they say that and they don't say when it was archived.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or wait, last updated, 2002.
Okay.
October 2nd.
Okay.
Strike that. No, October, 10's October. My male brain is going to be put to work today.
Your dude brain, how's that working?
Just like the rest of my dude self, just keep on keeping on. And then there was another website I had that I just scrapped because it was, honestly, I just didn't care for it.
Yeah.
It was one of those, somebody highly experienced with Wicca, and they interviewed this person. And this person goes on, and I'm reading this, and I'm like, this sounds like a bunch of horse shit. Mm-hmm. Of course, this is the first page I find.
Right.
Me wanting to learn more about Wicca. Of course, this is the first page I find. Hello, Internet.
First page you find is bunk.
This is what the Internet does. And I'm reading, I'm like, this just feels, I hope this isn't it.
That's why I went with a book.
Well, and I'm like, I didn't have time to dive into the book because I'm in like 3-4 other books. I just didn't have the bandwidth. And but what I like to read is the comments on the bottom. Mm-hmm. And the comments are just lambasting this article. Like, dude.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if it was a male that authored it and a female that they were talking to or
vice versa.
Or I probably don't have it right. I know the expert was a female.
Okay.
Which is generally, I'm guessing, probably 80% of the Wicca population.
It's a pretty...
We'll say 60.
Pretty decent
Little
portion.
more than half, Yeah. I'll
more
say
chicks than dudes.
I'll say that very conservatively.
Yeah.
I would definitely say somewhere in the 70 to 80, it would be more women. Yeah, no, the comments were just tossing it back and forth. And I was like, all right, you know what? I'm going to strike that out. So I had those five things.
Okay.
Learned quite a bit today, or leading up to this.
Mm-hmm.
I learned quite a bit. As most things, I think people have preconceived notions.
Oh.
And I think Wicca's full of that.
The whole reason I even started looking into it was because of, being born and raised Catholic.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They bang the drum pretty hard and fast for witches, witchcraft, etc. So I was like, you know what? Let me dive in.
Yeah.
Let me read. Let's see what it's all about. And it was a little bit like when you hear about another religion from the religion that you're in, the religion that they're talking about is usually villainized. And in being born and raised Catholic...
The witch part's tough. Even if you're not Catholic, witchcraft just has a bad intonation to it. Even if you weren't around, it just has a bad deal. If they said, hey, Wicca is this pagan soulcraft tradition.
Yeah.
If they just said soulcraft instead of witchcraft, which honestly, reading Wicca is more soulcraft than witchcraft.
Yes.
And I hope there's a Wiccan that's listening to this like, hey, that's not bad. We could move a lot of units with that. I'm going to toss that one to you for free. I might toss some other freebies because overall, it's a great idea.
It is.
Wicca is. I don't see where it hurts anybody.
No.
I don't see where it harms anyone.
No.
I see the potential for harm, just like anything else.
Correct.
But I think on its own face value, looking at it, and you have the right intentions, I don't see how it would be bad.
Right.
Because like when we did demons, or not demons, Satan, and we did the whole Satanism bit and all that stuff, that I could see right off the cover where you could go off the rails pretty quick with it.
Yes.
Like you really got to have a firm sense of self. And you got to have a very firm sense of morality.
Yes.
And you got to have that strength to keep yourself in check.
Correct.
And morality to pursue Satanism and their commandments. Because, I mean, they have specific commandments in Satanism where it yields permission just to destroy people.
Yes.
And I know they have their terms that they waffle around with and stuff.
Right.
But like Wicca doesn't have that.
No, it doesn't. It's a very old earth-based religion. It's a very positive religion dedicated to the god and goddess. It's usually practiced in a group called a coven led by a high priest and or high priestess. They include magic in their rites and incantations. And the purpose of the magic is to exercise influence over one's environment. The goal is that the magic is part of your spiritual growth, psychological transformation, and your spiritual life. There's a link between the material world and the psychic, which are intertwined, and that establishes the magical link. Wicca as we know it via books, podcasts, website, etc., is new. While some covens, especially maybe keepers of the old rites and rituals, with what we are familiar with, is fairly newly shared, revealed, etc. For many practicing or sharing their religion with anyone, it could have had tragic consequences. That's why I don't know that we'll ever truly know if Wicca in and of itself existed a millennia before or whatnot. But like I said, I think parts of it may have.
I think the actual organized bit of Wicca as we know it today and as of lately, I think really falls into the whole bit of what they talk about with Gerald Gardner. And
yes,
like, I think Gerald Gardner put the name on it.
Yes.
Now, the ideas that are in it, you can definitely see where they picked from here, picked from there, picked from here, picked from there.
Yeah, because
that's where I think you could see it and feel it as an old religion.
Yes.
And an old set of ideas.
Right.
That got mixed together did a little rebranding.
Yeah.
Or not, I can't even say rebranding because it wasn't like it existed like that before.
And just branded.
It was these separate things.
Because it never was branded.
Exactly.
And the reason being because of witch hunts. And so these groups didn't actively recruit new members, and they didn't share their religion with outsiders because to do so could have dire consequences.
I think that's a part of it, yeah.
So rituals are the heart of Wicca for some and pleasant additions for others. There's no right or wrong way to practice these rituals, and much of it is self-guided through intuition. Intuition plays a big role in Wicca itself. The Wiccan abide by the saying, do what thou wilt as long as ye harm none. And also taking into consideration whatever you send out is going to come back to you threefold. So if you send something positive out, you'll get positive times 3 back. If you send out something bad, you're going to get bad times 3 back at you. So buyer beware.
Yeah.
There is no one true, pure, genuine practice or form of Wicca. There is no central governing agency, physical leaders, or universally recognized prophets or messengers. There are specific structured forms of Wicca that do exist, but they don't seem to be in agreement regarding ritual, symbolism, and theology. This makes it very intuitive, and you practice what speaks to you and what touches you on a spiritual level. If you speak a 100-year-old incantation that means nothing to you, odds are you won't get a desired effect from that rite or ritual.
Yeah.
So if it isn't checking all the boxes for you, odds are you're not going to get what you should be getting out of it.
You got to be in it to win it.
Correct. Most Wiccans have a book of shadows, and this is either their own or one shared from their coven. This is where you note the rituals, the rites, the recipes for incense, etc. for your practice. Many Wiccans are initiated into the coven either in a single ritual or a 3-step ritual initiation. For many, finding a group of like-minded Wiccans in their area can be nearly impossible, which is why many practitioners practice on their own. If this seems like a religion or a pursuit that you would like to pursue, just pick up some books and start reading. If you're already practicing, you should also be picking up and reading any new books on the subject. You never know what new thing you will learn or how it may enhance your practice. So let's get down to the bones of the topic. And it's going to be broken out into parts and then further clarified from there. For example, theory, Wicca and shamanism. So shamanism has been described as the first religion. They were the medicine people, the power wielders, both male and female, who wrought magic and spoke with the spirits of nature. They were the first knowledge holders, and they created, discovered, nurtured, and used it. They would gain this knowledge through altered states of consciousness and ecstasy. Their tools to achieve this included fasts, thirsts, self-infliction of pain, ingestion of hallucinogenic substances, concentration, etc. It was through these awareness shifts that magical knowledge was attained. Later, as they advanced in the use of tools, they would use such items as drums, rattles, reflective objects, music, chants, and dance. It is from these primitive beginnings that all magic and religion, including Wicca, was born. Wicca spiritually descends from these rites, though it has been refined. They have dropped the use of pain and hallucinogens in favor of chanting, meditation, concentration, visualization, music, dance, invocation, and ritual drama. This is how the Wiccans achieve their altered states of consciousness, and Wicca teaches that nature includes a broad spectrum of mental and spiritual states, which most of us ignore. Effective Wiccan ritual enables us to slip into these states, allowing communication and communion with the goddess and the god. The goddess and god reside within us and manifest in all of nature. Wicca also embraces reincarnation. Wiccan reincarnation is that upon physical death, the soul will reincarnate into another human body. There is no reincarnation from a rock, tree, snail, bird, etc., until evolved to where we would reincarnate as human beings. In Wicca, you start as a human body and you continue to reincarnate as a human until you reach the higher plane. So let's get to the deities, the goddess and the god. They are twin deities revered for their links to nature. In the past, when the goddess and god were as real as the moon and sun, rites of worship and adoration were unstructured, spontaneous, joyous union with the divine. Later, rituals followed the course of the sun through its astronomical year, the seasons, as well as the monthly waxing and waning of the moon. The moon is extremely important in Wicca.
Well, it's also the change of seasons and
Yeah. Which is what I had, the course of the sun through its
basically most of the like nature cycles, correct?
Mm-hmm. Correct. The goddess is the universal mother. She is a source of fertility, endless wisdom, and loving caresses. She's often acknowledged in three aspects: maiden, mother, crone, symbolized in the waxing, full, and waning moon. So the waxing moon is the maiden, the full moon is the mother, and the waning moon is the crone. She, at all times, is the unplowed field, the full harvest, and the dormant frost-covered earth. Life is her gift, which she lends with the promise of death, the death being a rest from the toils of the physical existence. So for them, death isn't the end, it's the start of the new beginning.
It's just a transition phase.
Yes. So Wiccans revere her as the giver of fertility, love, abundance, while also acknowledging her dark side as well. She's seen in the moon, the sea, and the green growth of spring. She is the embodiment of fertility and love. The symbols to honor her include the cauldron, the cup, the labrys, the five-petaled flowers, the mirror, the necklace, the seashell, the pearl, silver, and emerald, to name a few. She has dominion over the earth, sea, and moon. Her creatures are varied and numerous. A few include the rabbit, the bear, the owl, the cat, dog, bat, goose, cow, dolphin, lion, horse, wren, scorpion, spider, and bee. She is depicted as a huntress running with her hounds, a celestial deity striding across the sky, stardust falling from her heels, the eternal mother heavy with child, the weaver of our lives and deaths, a crone walking in the waning moonlight, seeking out the weak and the forlorn. She is omnipresent, changeless, and eternal. The god. He is the consort of the goddess. He is seen in the sun. He is the tender of wild animals. As the horned god, he is sometimes seen wearing horns on his head, symbolizing his connection with the beasts. In early times, hunting was one of the activities thought to be ruled by the god, while the domestication of animals was seen as goddess-oriented. The god's domain includes the forests, untouched by human hands, burning deserts, and towering mountains. The stars, as they are distant suns, are also sometimes thought to be under his domain. The yearly cycle of greening, maturation, and harvest has long been associated with the sun. Hence, solar festivals of Europe are still observed in Wicca today. The god is the fully ripened harvest, intoxicating wine pressed from grapes, golden grain waving in the field, and shimmering apples hanging from boughs. With the goddess, he celebrates and rules sex. The god lustily imbues us with the urge that ensures that our species' biological future exists. Mm-hmm. Symbols often used to depict the god include swords, horns, spear, the candle, gold, brass, diamond, the sickle, arrow, magic wand, trident, knife, and others. Creatures sacred to him include the bull, dog, snake, fish, stag, dragon, wolf, boar, eagle, falcon, shark, lizard, and more. In order to commune with the goddess and the god, you will want to stand facing the moon, feel the light on your skin, mixing with your own energies, and commingling. Call to her, Diana, Lucina, Selena. Open your heart to the goddess and feel her energy in the moonlight. To commune with the god, stand in the sun. Think about and visualize the god and soak in his energies. Call to him, Cernunnos, Osiris, Apollo. Open your heart to him and feel his energy in the sunlight. Do this for a week. If you feel the connection and need to explore further, set up a temporary or permanent shrine or altar to the goddess and god. Simply a table with 2 candles, an incense burner, a plate or bowl to hold offerings of flowers, fruit, grain, seed, wine, or milk. It's that simple. Place the 2 candles in their holder at the rear of the shrine. The one on the left is for the goddess and should be green. The candle on the right is for the god and should be red. Other colors that can be used, white or silver for the goddess, yellow or gold for the god. Before and between the candles should be an incense burner. In front of that, the offering bowl or plate. A vase of seasonal flowers can be added and or personal power objects of crystals, fossils, dried herbs, whatever tickles your fancy. You should perform a simple ritual or rite at your shrine. Stand before the shrine with an offering in your hand, light the candles and incense, place the offering in the bowl or on the plate, and speak your intention to them. Now, it should be noted, in Wicca, when they mention incense, they do not mean the incense sticks or the incense cones that you can buy in the head shops or just about anywhere where they have that type of stuff. Mm-hmm. They're talking about it's activated charcoal. It's a lump of charcoal, and you put dried herbs, essential oils, resins. You put that into your charcoal, and that is your incense.
Okay.
So let's get to the magic. It's common knowledge that witches practice magic. Many are misguided as to the type of magic performed. Magic in Wicca allows the Wiccan to improve their lives and return energy to the planet. Through working with the powers which the goddess and the god embody, they grow closer to them. By calling upon them and visualizing them during spells and rites, creates a bond between deity and human. In Wicca, magic is a religious practice. Magic is the projection of natural energies to produce needed effects. There are 3 main sources of this energy: personal power, earth power, and divine power. Personal power is the life force that sustains our earthly existence. It powers the body, absorbs energy from the moon and sun, from water and food, and we release it during movement, exercise, sex, and childbirth. Even exhaling releases some power, but it is recouped when we inhale. In magic, personal power is aroused, infused with a specific purpose, released, and directed toward its goal. Earth power is that which resides within the planet and its natural products: stones, trees, wind, flames, water, crystals, and scents all possess unique specific powers which can be used during magic rituals. Both personal and earth power are manifestations of divine power. This is the energy that exists within the goddess and the god, the life force, the source of universal power, which created everything in existence. Wiccans invoke the goddess and god to bless their magic with power. During rituals, they may direct personal power to the deities, asking that a specific need be met. Most of the rituals within Wicca actually are like they're a healing ritual for the earth. It's you're showing your gratefulness, you're thanking the earth for everything it's given to you, and you're sending your energy into the earth in the thought process that by doing so, you're helping to heal the earth, to keep it going so that, it can continue to provide for you.
Okay. Very Native American.
Very Native American.
Yeah.
Which I find fascinating because like Gardner, he didn't start in the States. Like, they were...
He's off in England.
So I get the pagan origins, but the fact that there are so many overlaps with Native Americans is just it's very fascinating.
The parallels to Native Americans to me seemed glaring as I was going through all this. And again, that's where I just see like Native Americans getting like cheated on another thing.
Yeah. They stole our shit again.
Well, also, but I look at it as, I don't want to say it's loosey-goosey, because there is some structure in Wicca.
Yes.
But I think there's two camps from what I've been reading. Cut me off immediately if you think I'm going into the wrong thing here. Because my whole thing on this was to understand it.
Right.
And the way I perceived it is there's kind of two camps of Wiccans. You've got like the traditional Wiccans, and you've got what I'll, for lack of a better term, well, actually it's spot on term, like a neo-Wiccan.
Yeah, the new Wiccan.
The new Wiccan. And the traditional seems to be the tight group.
Yes.
The coven-based.
Scott actually came from the traditional
The coven-based
Wiccan.
religion. So, for example, an outsider like myself that wants to look into the Wiccan route or the life going through Wicca, I would have to get into a coven to to maneuver through and truly understand Wicca. Yes,
but you also have to make sure, because each coven is a little different. Like, you got to make sure you're not getting into one of the
that's where I think
new covens.
No, but that's what I'm saying. If I were to go the traditional route, and I was around a bunch of traditionalists, I would have to get into a coven if they let me.
Right.
And then, excuse me if I'm wrong on this, but the term then would be, I'm called is it a seeker?
Yeah.
Is that how it goes? Yeah.
Until you start your initiation, and then you're an initiate.
Yeah.
And then you become a coven member.
Before a coven member, I believe it's called a seeker. And then I would go through, and the coven would kind of dictate what Wicca is to me and basically kind of download it to me on that level.
Correct.
Where the neo-Wicca, same person, me, new, but different root, and I talk to someone who's of the neo-Wiccan, the new Wicca, and even a coven, it would most likely put me in a position where they'd say, here's some books to read. Read it, check it out, see if it's what you're into, and then get back and talk to us. But this is your path.
The traditional coven would do the same thing.
Because even like
before you get to the seeker status, they're much more strict than the neo covens.
That's how it looks.
They're going to be particularly harsh, is the way I'm going to phrase it. Because if you're willing to withstand what they put you through, that means that you have the dedication to put into the practice.
Yeah. And like the church and school Wicca, their website presence, that's the first thing they say is like, look, if you're looking to get into this, read some books. It's their first thing. And then they gave a list of basically, I'd want to say it's about 20 books that are like essential Wicca craft.
Buckland's shows up a lot. Scott Cunningham shows up. Lori Cabot. Then there's a Ravina. I don't know if that's part of her last name or her first name. She's got, I think it's like Ravina Silver Claw or something like that.
Yeah.
She's got a bunch.
But even the reading that I've done, there's so many parallels to Hinduism.
Yep. It's got a
Buddhism.
little bit of all the old stuff. It's the really old stuff.
Yeah. The whole
The
I don't want to say
polytheism.
polytheism, not gods, but
Yeah, no, it's the belief
but
in
my
a lot
whole
of different
problem with
things.
Wicca growing up and being around Wiccans, and not a bad thing.
Right,
I've
yeah.
always had good encounters with Wiccans, so I don't want this to come off wrong. But the problem is like you could have a room of 20 Wiccans and they'll have 20 different opinions on what Wicca is.
Correct.
And I think that's the problem for Wicca.
Yeah.
Because right now,
if you're trying,
if you were to poll the audience and find out even how many Wiccans there are,
yes,
and they say this, they're like, that could be 200,000, could be 2 million.
Yeah.
Don't know.
Yeah. And here's the other thing.
Because it's a self-practicing deal.
There's
and I
a
like
lot
to
of people who won't, even if they are practicing, won't acknowledge it. Yeah.
But you mentioned earlier where they said, you were saying that if people came out with it, they were just proposed as witches and all that. I think some of that is the reason why it didn't gain steam, but I just think personally it's something that I don't see gaining steam because I hate to say it. People need structure.
Yeah, it's not structured enough.
And it's not structured at all.
They do
and
have
that's
some,
but that's
not
its
enough.
draw too.
Yeah.
So that's the tough part it's like it's mission statement, so to speak, like it's draw to catch you in is, oh, this isn't structured. I don't have anybody telling me this. I don't have anybody telling me I feel like shit all the time. I get that part of it, but there's this other part where it doesn't really go anywhere either. I see Wicca as something, and I, again, as always, cut me off if I'm wrong on this, but I see something as this would be something that someone gets into when they're just kind of lost, looking, and they say, hey, this looks pretty good.
Yep.
But then after a while, the ground falls out.
Maybe.
The diehards are in. Diehards are in, and no offense to that.
It's like anything else.
But I see a lot of people that would window shop this and just keep walking.
It's the effort that you put into it.
No,
you're
exactly.
going to get out of it what you put into it. So if you're half-assing it, it's probably not going to be a lifelong change for you.
Yeah.
If you go all in, then you may well find those rites or those rituals or a sabbat that speaks to you and actually you do have a profound moment or you do have a profound life change and you become a lifer. I can see it either way.
Yeah, and also like the magic end of it. Again, this is where I say like a lack of structure is troubling because I've met some Wiccans that are like, oh yeah, I could put a spell on that person and ruin their life. And it's like...
That's not a Wiccan.
No, but that's what I'm saying is it's so loosey-goosey. People categorize themselves in that. Then when I started meeting the quote-unquote real Wiccans...
Yes.
They'll say, no, that's...
It should also be noted that a lot of people will call themselves Wiccan when in fact they are not. They are just trying to be a witch or...
Yeah.
I don't want to say warlock because they don't really use that anymore, but like a witch or wizard. They're just simply in it for the magic, for the ritual, to try and get whatever they can get out of it. That's not a true Wiccan. And they will call themselves a Wiccan because they don't want to call themselves a witch. Yeah. Because to classify themselves as a witch leads you to any number.
And this is where I think like the lack of organization gets them in trouble. Because if they didn't want to be associated with that crowd, promote that a little more.
Yeah.
And not just promote, no, we're not into that. Promote into the, hey,
that's not
stop
what
doing
Wicca
this.
Is. Yeah.
And I think that's Wicca's problem.
Right. Well,
growing.
And also too, because it's not like there's just a central for example, church or
No.
a central
And there's
coven.
nothing wrong with that.
They just don't have the authority to be
It's not even
everywhere.
authority, but they don't have
to do that cease and desist, to be like, you cannot classify yourself as a Wiccan because you are not following Wiccan practices. It's hard for them to do that when they're spread out and they're
decentralized.
Correct.
And that's the problem.
Yes.
Is in order to get, and this is where I'm saying, like, this is a problem with religions, period.
Mm-hmm.
Catholic Church is a great example of it, where the Catholic Church went the whole route of centralizing.
They did.
And having this center authority.
Correct.
And most of the time it works.
Yes.
But then there's some times where
it doesn't.
It's basically it's a hammer hitting a feather sometimes. You know, like, I mean, when a hammer hits like a big nail, it's awesome. It works perfect.
Yeah.
But if it hits just like an egg,
yeah.
It looks terrible. And the problem is you're having now this central authority put in. Mm-hmm. And this is the catch-22 of religions.
Yes.
Across the board. And the longer lasting religions, I think, have figured that out.
Yes.
Where there's that fine line, and it goes too far, and it ebbs and flows, you know.
But they
and the people,
have
the followers, take the power back, so to speak, and say, this is how it's supposed to be, or this is how it's required to be for us to exist in it.
I think if Wicca wanted to grow, they would benefit from a centralized governing body.
Well, yeah, it's inevitable, because what'll end up happening is
a little bit of structure.
Well, it's the little bit of structure for correctiveness.
Correct.
And just basically to steer the ship.
Yes.
Because here's where I look at, say, Christianity, Judaism, and like Muslim.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just say you're a ship out at sea and you have a 50-person crew.
Yes.
Those religions that I just named off, they have a captain.
Yes.
They have people that are running the sails. They have people that are running the deck of the boat. They have people that are watching and the crow's nest and all that. They have a system set up for the ship to successfully sail.
Yes.
Where Wicca is 50 people on a boat.
Yep.
And they're on the boat. There's no rules. There's no, and it's one of those things, like I said earlier, where it just sounds great in the beginning, like to reel you in. You're like, well, this is great. There's nothing, but then after a while you're like, excuse me, who's piled in the boat?
Yeah.
And
where are we going?
I don't know. Where are we going? The wind's blowing. Should we have the sails up?
Yeah.
And that's what happens when there's no infrastructure or organization or anything like that.
Yes.
But the tough part is once you have that organization, now you have people that are in the crow's nest that don't want to be in the crow's nest.
Right.
And you've got
people swapping the deck, deck that do not want to be swapping the deck.
Well, and you got people that are saying, we're going northeast by northwest, and there's others like, I don't think we should be going that way.
Yeah.
It's the strife of humanity at that point. And that's where I found it amazing that, this basically started in the 50s.
Yeah.
And it's still going. Yeah. And it's growing.
It is.
Which I think is awesome.
It is.
I think it's growing and it's growing and it's doing that nice small incremental growth, slow growth.
It is.
It fills a need for people who need to have something, but like church is just asking too much out of them. This offers...
Yeah, or they just don't understand church. Because there's a lot to not understand church.
Also true.
Or Christianity, I should say.
Yes.
Christianity has this layer that you got to kind of... Like I tell people with Christianity, now me being a new hard-in person with it, a follower, there's this crust that you have to break through.
Correct.
With Christianity to really... And fortunately, I was around some people that were past the crust and had a real good insight on what their faith is, what their faith means.
They were in the creamy center.
And I got to work with that. I understand where people could be very frustrated with Christianity and downright hostile towards it. I do understand it. I do.
You think so, Bob?
Creative director Dean.
He's got some words to say about that.
He's always got opinions.
He does.
But yeah, I think Wicca with that slow rise, it's nice. But,
it is.
I hope for Wicca's sake, they don't have honestly somebody famous that just kind of tries to
Yeah.
like head on and,
Yeah.
and it could happen. I hate to say it.
Yeah, we'll see.
But I
So-
do like the idea of just going in, reading books.
Mhm.
And honestly, this is something I definitely pursue further. Like reading books and looking into it.
Let's get into the Wiccan tools.
Get into the tools. Yeah.
The broom.
Yep.
This is probably one of the most important tools. They may begin a ritual by sweeping the area indoors and or out with a broom. It doesn't have to touch the ground or the earth. It's simply a symbol.
Yeah.
You can touch the ground with it, or you can be a couple inches above the ground. The point is you're sweeping away the negative energy.
Yeah. Yeah.
After this, the altar is set up, tools are brought out, and the ritual can begin. Traditionally, the magical formula for a broom was an ash staff, birch twigs, and willow binding. Ash is protective, birch is purifying, and the willow is sacred to the goddess. The magical broom should be used for no other purpose and should be round, as it is more effective than the flat shaker-style broom. Wand. The traditional wood for wands includes willow, elder, oak, apple, peach, hazel, cherry, etc. Some cut the length from the crook of their arm to the tip of their forefinger, but that isn't necessary. Any fairly straight piece of wood will work. Censer, which is the incense burner. It can be a complex swinging version like that used in the Catholic Church, or it can be a simple seashell. Any bowl or cup half filled with sand or salt will serve as well. The salt or sand absorb the heat from the charcoal or, your incense and prevent the bowl from cracking. Incense sticks can be pushed into the salt or cones placed upon its surface. It should be noted when they say cones or sticks, they make them themselves.
Yeah.
Or you've gotten them from an apothecary, not a head shop.
What you were clarifying earlier.
Yep. Most Wiccans use self-igniting charcoal briquettes where the incense is burned atop it. Like I said, you're kind of putting your herbs, your resins, your oils together and kind of a little bit of a spell for your incense. Cauldron. This is the ancient cooking vessel steeped in magical tradition. It's a symbol for the goddess and the element water, reincarnation, immortality, and inspiration. It's the focal point of the ritual. In spring, it is filled with fresh water and flowers. In winter, a fire is kindled inside the cauldron to represent the returning heat and light of the sun, the god. It should ideally be iron, resting on 3 legs with its opening smaller than its widest part. So your traditional cauldron. I have seen a lot of the cast iron where it's just wide open and it's got the 3 legs. That would not serve as a cauldron.
All those things we see in the shops. Basically.
Yeah. It's very... I went on a massive hunt for a cauldron, and those are expensive.
Really?
Yeah. Especially if you're looking for a legit 3-legged round with the smaller opening.
Mm-hmm.
If you're looking for anything bigger than 4 inches
Like a softball.
across, I'd say a baseball.
Yeah.
The baseball size is probably doable for most because you're talking about $50.
Mm-hmm.
Anything higher, anything bigger than that, you're talking hundreds of dollars. So
it's kind of the same price as like mortar and pestles and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's handling fire. It's got to handle heat. It's got to be built well.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So
you can't just get like a Chubb's fireplace deal from Home Goods.
And you can't just get like a ceramic
or at home.
Yeah. You can't just go and get like a fire pit.
Yeah.
No.
You can't do like a beer can.
Nope.
Open the top of it. And put no. All right.
The magical knife is called an athame. It's used to direct the energy raised during rites and rituals. It's seldom used to invoke or call upon the deities. It should be dull, usually double-edged with a black or dark handle. The black absorbs the power, When used in ritual to direct energy, some of this power is absorbed into the handle. It's a tiny, tiny amount, which you can call upon later in another spell. You also have a white-handled knife, sometimes called a baleen, and it's a practical working knife as opposed to the purely ritualistic magic knife. This is the knife that you use to cut wands, sacred herbs, inscribe symbols onto candles or on wood, clay, or wax, and in cutting cords for use in magic. The white handle is to distinguish it from the athame. A crystal ball or sphere. The quartz crystal ball is an ancient magical tool. They are expensive when genuine crystal. Most for sale in the market today are glass, leaded glass, or even plastic. Genuine quartz includes inclusions and irregularities and will be cool to the touch. It is used for contemplative divination. In Wiccan ritual, it is sometimes placed on the altar to represent the goddess. They can receive messages from the gods or store energy raised in ritual. Some scry into the ball to call upon images of the goddess or past lives. A cup. It's simply a cauldron on a stem. It symbolizes the goddess and fertility and is related to the element water. Though it can be used to hold water, it may also contain the ritual beverage imbibed during the ritual. It can be made of silver, brass, gold, earthenware, soapstone, alabaster, crystal, etc. A pentacle. This is usually a flat piece of brass, gold, silver, wood, wax, or clay, inscribed with certain symbols. The most common and only necessary one is the pentagram, the 5-pointed star used in magic for millennia. In the ancient art, it was often an instrument of protection or a tool used to evoke evil spirits. In Wicca, the pentacle represents the element of earth and is a convenient tool upon which amulets, charms, and or other objects are placed to be ritually consecrated, sometimes used to summon the gods and goddesses. It's hung over doors and windows to act as a protective device. You still see those for sale in several places, where you see the wooden star and it's got the round circle around it.
Yeah.
That's a pentagram.
Yeah.
The 5-pointed star in and of itself is like a pentacle.
Yeah.
So we have the 5-pointed star on the garage as a form of protection. Came with the house.
Yeah.
All right. The Book of Shadows. This is the Wiccan workbook containing invocations, ritual patterns, spells, runes, rules governing magic, etc. Some are passed on from Wiccan to Wiccan, usually upon initiation. The vast majority are made by the individual. It can be an actual book, a binder, or electronic.
So this is this was something I wanted to ask you.
Yes.
Because Gerald Gardner, who started Wicca, had his Book of Shadows. But when you say Book of Shadows in general, every coven has a Book of Shadows, their own Book of Shadows, right? Do I have that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And most Wiccans, I have a Book of Shadows.
Yeah.
I myself. It's just where if you find a rite or a ritual that works for you, or you stumble across, say, an incense recipe that worked particularly well,
yeah,
you mark all of that into your Book of Shadows, noting all of the details so that you can recreate that event in the future.
So a Book of
kind
Shadows is like a
cookbook
cookbook / journal.
Yeah.
A journal book.
Yep.
For each person, or see, this is where. Okay, so
if you're in a coven, your coven has a Book of Shadows.
Yeah.
If you are a solitary practitioner,
you got your Book of Shadows.
You make your own Book of Shadows.
If you're in a coven, though, you could have your own Book of Shadows.
You can add to
their
Book of Shadows, or you can have their Book of Shadows, and if you're so inclined, you can make your own Book of Shadows.
Okay.
Again, no rules.
Well, yeah.
And a bell. This is a feminine symbol Often used to invoke the goddess in ritual, it can also be rung to ward off evil spells and spirits, to halt storms, or evoke good energies. They're placed in cupboards or hung on the door, and it guards the home. Sometimes the bell is rung in ritual to mark various sections and to signal a spell's beginning or end. Any type of bell can be used. And then there's music, dance, and gesture is all used in ritual practice according to the practitioner. So if music doesn't do it for you, but dance does, there's going to be more dance in your ritual. If dance isn't your thing, but music is, there's going to be more music in your ritual. And if it just simply gesturing works for you, then that's going to be more prominent in your ritual. It's whatever is most comfortable for you, because the more comfortable you are with it, the more of your personal energy you're putting into it, and the more you're going to get out of it.
Yeah.
So if you're doing something, something that you don't like doing or you're not comfortable doing, you're not putting forth your best effort and you're not putting your energy into it, and you're not going to get the desired result.
Gotcha.
So ritual and preparation for ritual, they need not be pre-planned, rehearsed, or traditional, nor must they slavishly adhere to one particular pattern or form. It can be a lone celebrant lighting a fire, chanting sacred names, and watching the moon rise. Wiccan ritual usually occurs on the nights of the full moon and the 8 days of power. You usually start with a ritual bath to cleanse away the negative energies of the day and purify yourself for the ritual. Use Epsom salt and essential oil if desired. You can dress for the ritual, or you can be naked. It can be indoors or it can be outside. But if you're outdoors and don't want any unwanted attention, clothes of cotton, wool, or silk will do. You can wear a robe if you desire. Each color has a meaning. Yellow is excellent for divination. Purple is for magicians who wish to deepen their spiritual awareness with a goddess and god. Blue is suited for healers and those who work their psychic awareness for attuning with the goddess and the god. Green is for herbalists and magical ecologists. Brown is to attune with animals or cast spells for them. White is for purification, meditation, and cleansing rituals. This is for full moon celebrations and to attune with the goddess. Orange or red are for sabbats. Those are protective rites, attuning with the god in his fiery solar aspect. And black is the absence of color. It's protective and symbolizes the night and lack of falsehood. You can wear ritual jewelry if it speaks to you and brings fulfillment and enhances your ritual. You can invite like-minded people to attend, but make sure they actually have an interest. Otherwise, you're wasting your time, and it may actually detract from the ritual.
Yeah.
It could serve as a, what's the word I'm looking for? You won't be as focused. You'll have a redirect.
Yeah. Yeah.
So to start your ritual, you start with a magical circle in the altar. The magic circle is actually a sphere that encompasses the entire space above and below where you are setting your sacred space for your ritual. They are usually 9 feet or less. You can mark it out with cord, flowers, pine boughs, crushed herbs, stone, sand, etc. Usually the altar is set up in the center or the north of the circle, or to the east as the rising of the sun. Cardinal points are often marked by candles or ritual tools assigned to each point. The pentacle, bowl of salt or earth are placed to the north. This is the realm of earth stabilizing, fertile, and nourishing. The censer for smoldering incense is at the east, the realm of air. Fresh flowers or stick incense can also be used. Air is the element of mind, communication, movement, divination, and spirituality. To the south, a candle often represents fire, the element of transformation, passion, and change, success, health, strength. An oil lamp or piece of lava rock can also be used. A cup or bowl of water is placed to the west to represent water. Now, this isn't on the altar. This is the circle to mark your cardinal points. It is the realm of emotions, the psychic mind, love, healing, beauty, and emotional spirituality. These items can also be placed on the altar in their corresponding positions. The altar is set up in 3 sections: left, center, right. Left half is for the goddess with the tools sacred to her: the cup, the pentacle, the bell, the crystal, and the cauldron. An image of the goddess or green, silver, or white candle. A broom can be laid against the left side of the altar. The right half is for the god. This is a red, yellow, or gold candle, appropriate figure or image, the censer, the wand, the athame, and the white-handled knife. And flowers may be set in the middle in a small vase or cauldron. The censer can be moved to the center so smoke is offered to the goddess and the god. So let's get to the days of power. The days of power include 12 to 13 full moon celebrations and 8 sabbats, or days of power. 4 of those 8 days are determined by the solstices and equinoxes, and these dates change within the year. So Yule is around December 21st. And this is when the goddess gives birth to the sun. To a son, the god.
Yeah.
This is the winter solstice and long viewed as a time of divine births. It is the time of the greatest darkness and the shortest day of the year. The god is also the sun, and this is when the sun is reborn as well. The Wiccan light fires or candles to welcome the sun's returning light. The goddess, slumbering through the winter of her labor, rests after her delivery. Imbolc, he has here February 2nd, but February 1st or 2nd? It can be observed.
Ish.
Yeah. It marks the recovery of the goddess after giving birth to the god. The lengthening periods of light awaken her. Her god is a young, lusty boy whose power is felt in the longer days. It's a sabbat of purification after the shut-in life of winter through the renewing power of the sun. It's the festival of lights and fertility. Ostara is around March 21st, the spring equinox, the first day of true spring with equal day and night hours. Beltane is April 30th, and this is the emergence of the young god into adulthood. He desires the goddess. They fall in love, lie among the grasses and blossoms, and unite. The goddess becomes pregnant of the god, aka May Day, marked with maypoles decorated with flowers and green branches from fields and gardens. The flowers and greenery are the goddess, and the pole is the god. Midsummer, the summer solstice, is about June 21st, aka Letha. This is the powers of nature are at their highest point. In the past, bonfires were leapt to encourage fertility, purification, health, and love. Fire once again represents the sun. Lugnasa, August 1st, is the time of the first harvest when spring plants drop their fruits, seeds for our use, as well as to ensure future crops. The god loses his strength as the sun rises farther in the south each day and the nights grow longer. The goddess watches in sorrow and joy as she realizes that the god is dying, yet lives on inside her as her child, aka Lammas. It originally coincided with the first reapings. Mabon, about September 21st. It's the autumn equinox. It's the completion of the harvest begun at Lammas. Day and night once again equal, poised as the god prepares to leave his physical body and begin the great adventure into the unseen toward renewal and rebirth of the goddess. Samhain, October 31st. The Wiccans say farewell to the god. Was originally marked as the time for sacrifice when animals were slaughtered to ensure food throughout the depths of winter. The god is identified with the animals, so he fell as well. It is a time of reflection and looking back over the past year. Yeah. So each of those has, like for Yule, pomegranates, pine boughs.
Yeah.
They're all part of that, which is kind of where we get a lot of our, like the pine wreath.
No, definitely.
There's a lot of similarities. But I got to tell you, this spoke to me at a time where I was kind of floundering.
I could see where it would. I really could. From an outsider perspective, being a former agnostic, being basically raised Lutheran up to confirmation, leaving there, going agnostic, then to borderline atheism. Pretty much maybe a good year or two of convincing myself of atheism. Let's put it that way. Going back to agnostic and then getting into basically the Catholicism end of things, but back to Christianity. I could see where this could bring in someone at a time where they need to figure out their connectiveness to themselves.
Yes.
And I could see the ingredients that it has.
Yes.
I think the part of it that's very inviting, we spoke about earlier, where it's just, there's not a whole lot of rules.
Right.
There's basically the one rule.
Yes.
Which is...
do what thou wilt, and ye harm none.
And ye harm none. However, this gets back to where I said, I think this is something you could only go so far in.
Yeah.
And it's not to knock the ones that have been doing it their whole lives. I think what they have been, for lack of a better term, blessed with is a good upbringing or a strong mind to understand the difference between right and wrong.
Yes.
I think religions propose a few things that you really have to have your house in order. It doesn't matter whether it's Wicca, Christianity, the different branches of Christianity, and Buddhism, Hinduism, you name it. All of them.
Yeah.
The number one thing you got to understand, and this is where like the books of the Bible really get contorted on this one, is sacrifice. I think sacrifice is imperative to all these. And like listening to you through all these, there's a sacrifice made in a lot of realms. I think sacrifice is an important thing that people have to understand, even outside of religion. Like you have to sacrifice things, and the more you sacrifice, the better off you'll be. I think the old story of Cain and Abel really hits the meat and potatoes of that, because you have the one brother who sacrifices the most important things, and the most important things that are to that brother. And the other brother is just sacrificing enough to sacrifice.
Yes.
One's rewarded greatly for the sacrifices. The other one is clearly not.
Right.
And what it did was create an envy to the other brother enough to kill them and try to be in the deity's best eyes. And that's sacrifice in general.
Yeah.
So even sacrifice in this would be the same way. If you give, you get back threefold.
Yes.
So how much do you want to give?
Right. The more you give, the more you get back.
Yeah, the more you get back. This is human nature 101.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter which religion you apply it to.
No.
Sacrifice is a part of human nature. It's even with your job.
Yeah.
You watch these people that sacrifice their lives for their careers. And most of them get back a lot. They have a beautiful home. They have wonderful cars. They have nice things. But however, sacrificing everything comes with its cost as well.
Yeah. Everything comes with a price.
My one problem with Wicca that I see with it, again, for the long haul, and this is where I think it takes a strong mind, is from the way I'm looking at it, and I was reading some well-known Wiccans who basically, I'm going to basically paraphrase some of them, but I think it was Alex Sanders was one that I read, and he died in the 80s. And he said, a thing is good for me until I feel it is not right for me.
Right.
And that's, I've listened now.
It works until it doesn't.
Yeah, I've listened now. It works till it doesn't. I don't know how far in line I can go with that idea. Because now the problem is you're in control. And you have to make all the right decisions.
Yeah.
And if something's right for you right now, it might not be right, is basically what it's saying. And what effect does that have? And I'll give an extreme example, but like another witch that I read, I don't have the name, but they said the witch's own conscience must be the final arbiter. Like I have I have issue with that, where you're the final arbiter of things. Most other religions have this higher deity that they got to please.
Yes.
Where the Wiccan, and I'm not linking these two together other than just this kind of idea, Satanism religion.
Mm-hmm.
You're the final arbiter of this judgment, these ideas, these things you're going through. And I'll give just an example of something very extreme just to kind of make the point. If a Wiccan follower or witch, however, warlock, whatever we want to call them, one day feels that incest or murder is the right thing to do, is there anything to stop them? To do it. You know what I'm saying?
There's nothing to stop them to do it aside from themselves, but it should be noted that that's not acting in the Wiccan. You're no longer Wiccan when you cross that line. One of the big tenets in Wicca is you cannot impede the will of another. Mm-hmm. So, like, you can't cast a love spell on someone to make someone fall in love with you because you are impeding their free will. You're impeding them. They still have the right to their feelings, and they have the right to decide who they think is right for them and who is not. Same thing with incest or your situation here. You are imposing yourself on the will of another. That person is not given the chance to exercise their free will. You have taken that choice away from them. You have taken that option away from them. And you have, in essence, taken yourself out of Wicca in doing so.
Yeah. And that's something I wanted to clear because I think that's the axe to grind that most people have with Wicca on this. And I knew you'd have an answer. That's why I tossed it out here without any warning. You know, we've been together a long time. I know you. But but even, for someone like me, that is the bit of it. Because, most Wiccans would say that these things are wrong, but there's no firm basis for saying so that's written. Because this is the problem when you only have like one commandment.
Yeah.
Because I think people really have to understand, and we talk about this, a reoccurring theme on the podcast, is not everybody's just designed for good.
Yeah, not everybody is good.
And that's where I'm saying, like, to be a good Wiccan, really,
you technically
have
need
to have
to be a good person to
you got to be a good person. You got to have a strong sense of character. Yeah. You got to have massive morals.
If you're a shitty person, you're going to be a shitty Wiccan.
Yeah. And you're going to give Wiccans a bad name.
You will.
Without the structure, it allows bad Wiccans to take over.
It does. I will say, though.
And I say, not say take over the religion, but just make it look bad.
In having conversations with and meeting Wiccans, I've yet to meet a shitty Wiccan. I've yet to meet a bad Wiccan.
I've met a handful of them.
Yeah.
And that's a handful out of a lot.
Yeah.
Considering the space of how many that declare themselves. And again, it gets back to the other thing where, like I said, you could have 20 Wiccans in a room and they'll all disagree on what Wicca is. It's the lack of, like I said, the lack of centralization's a tough thing, because even to explain Wicca to somebody, like you and I are doing a great job at it because you're basically steering the ship.
Right.
To get back to the ship analogy.
Yeah.
You're the only Wiccan on board this 2-person boat crew.
And I'm not even Wiccan.
No, and I'm just saying, but you have more knowledge of it, and therefore I'm in a boat that I have no knowledge of.
Right.
So you're going to tell me where north is and east and, where we're going to steer the ship. And I'm just like, okay, Captain, let's go.
Yeah.
And that's where this works. However, if we had 5 Wiccans here at this table, I think it'd be a totally different conversation. There'd be a lot of this arguing and not even on the nuanced stuff.
Right.
The general stuff.
Yes.
And that's a tough thing when you only have one tenant.
I
really, and this is again my plea to Wiccans, maybe add 4 more tenants.
Something.
To your one tenant and have a few tenants. You don't have to have 10 like everyone else does, but one is going to get you in trouble.
Yeah.
I'm saying this as someone who practices a different way of life.
Yes.
And if you want me to be acceptive of what you're doing And I'm very open, very lenient. There's people on my side of the fence that are very narrow, very laser focused, and to reach them.
I want to clarify when they say do what thou wilt, shalt be the rule of the law or whatever. They also have, and ye harm none, so mote it be.
Yeah.
Which essentially states as long as you aren't harming anyone, have at it.
Yeah.
And,
at the end of the day,
blessed be.
Yeah. At the end of the day, though, a lot of religions will have a hard time with Wicca because, for example, from a Wiccan standpoint, it looks as though they would worship, say, the moon.
They do.
Or they would worship Mother Nature. Or they would
worship...
it's
not so much Mother Nature. They have a...
or just nature in general.
Yes.
There's a worship there.
There is.
And on the Christianity side, at least, and others that are the well-known, that's just an immediate sin.
Yes.
Because the God created all that. And the God deity is the one you worship. On a fundamental level.
Yes.
We're just going fundamentals, 10,000-foot view. And this is why I wanted to bring this up, because if you're a Wiccan still listening to this, thank you. Or if you're thinking about it, this is where you're going to get resistance. I just think you should know where you're going to get resistance in life.
Yes.
Because life is a tragedy. It really is. It's just a set of tragedies. And it has nothing to do with evil on that regard. You're just going to have bad things happen to you.
Right.
And you got to know why you're going to have bad things happen to you. If you make a certain decision, you're going to have to realize that there's some tragedies that are going to come to your life. It's not evil. I think evil's a whole separate thing.
Yes.
Evil's a bit where I think not only do you know it's evil, not only do you know it's a tragedy and it's bad, but you're willing to carry it out. Yeah. To me, that's the line of evil right there.
Yes.
And for more examples of that, just look at concentration camps that Germany ran in World War II. That's evil.
Yes.
And one just quick example is they had the prisoners there carry these bags of salt, malnourished, to one side of the camp and then back to the other. No reason to do it. There was nothing productive gained out of it. There was no lesson to be learned. There was nothing. And it was just done because that's just evil. It's just evil things. And like I said, I think everyone has bad thoughts. Everyone has bad intentional thoughts. But if they stay in your brain and they're just your thoughts, you're okay.
Yeah.
If you go into a part of now you're starting to act out those thoughts, you're getting into the evil realm. That's the invitation, so to speak, that we talk about with, demonic stuff and things like that. The thought and everything is there, but the moment you start shaping that as a reality, planning it, doing things, that's when you're in trouble. And I think that's the same route that Wicca goes. Send everything out good.
Yes.
Don't commit to bad things.
Right.
You can have it in your mind, but you can't put it over. But like I said, I think those are the two things that you're just going to struggle as a Wiccan.
Yeah.
And to understand it, that it's not the end of the world. It's not that somebody thinks you're wrong or whatever. I mean, they do think you're wrong, but like I said, any group that you're going to be affiliated with, you're going to get resistance on no matter who it is. Anything else you want to add on this?
No.
Thanks.
I think that does it.
Thanks for, I learned a lot today.
Well, I'm glad.
I really did. And even more, I learned reading up to this, a lot of things. It's definitely a subject I'm now obviously enamored with, and I'm going to be reading up on it like a crazy lunatic.
Will say I incline more toward green witchery than I do Wicca.
So for the person listening to this that wants to know more, what are some books? What are like a couple books you'd recommend?
Anything by Scott Campbell. He's got Wicca for the Solitary Practitioner. He's got Wicca for One, I believe is what the other one is called. He's got another one called Earth, Air, Fire. about elemental magic. That's really good if you want to deep dive into not just Wicca, but into witchcraft itself. There's the Crone's Book of Spells. There's Green Witchcraft. I forget who the author is, but that is excellent. Essentially, just go on Llewellyn Worldwide. They are the premier Wiccan / witchcraft publisher. So they have they've got a spell a day book that they're promoting, where they tell you what the incense of the day is, the color of the day, the stone of the day, the intention for the day. It's just it gives you essentially like a positive affirmation to take into each day. They also have the almanac, which breaks out each of the sabbats, the days of power, tells you what the rituals are, what the symbols are, how to set up an altar, how to set up your home for those sabbats. They also include recipes that you can have for your sabbats. You can include them in your meals. There's some great books on kitchen witchery, where you essentially turn your kitchen into your workspace, your sacred space, where all of your intentions goes into what you're producing in your kitchen. And I'm somewhere between the green witch and the kitchen witch.
Yeah.
And there's very much of an overlap there. And just see what speaks to you. If it doesn't speak to you, it's not your jam.
Good.
And you'll know. You'll probably know within a chapter 2 at the most.
Yeah.
But
so for a nice segue with witches, what are we doing next week?
We are doing Ms. Lori Cabot herself,
yes,
Salem's Witch. I'm very excited. I have wanted her episode on here for quite some time.
Long time, yeah.
Yeah, so I snuck her in. She's my birthday present to me.
I was going to say, it's your birthday present to yourself.
Yes, it is.
That's a good
She's
thing.
got a pretty cool story.
And that'll be dropped the day after your birthday.
Yep. Yeah.
So, rule number 1.
No Ouija boards.
Number 2.
No dolls.
3.
No capes.
4.
No blood rituals.
5.
No cults, satanic or otherwise.
6.
No apathy. You need to act to help enact a positive change in the world. Do an earth healing spell. It can't hurt.
Rule number 7.
Don't let the black-eyed children in.
Don't do it.
And guys, those of you who are active in the Facebook group, a couple of our rules got hit pretty hard with the posts I stumbled across.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I tried to alert you to them as I came across them.
Oh, with that being said, we thank you so much for listening, and we hope you continue to listen. We send our prayers, thoughts, and good intentions out to the folks in Ukraine and the folks in Russia who are just dealing with a bad situation.
Yes.
We hope everyone can just at least put some thoughts out to them for a short time.
Yeah.
Just takes 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And it means a lot.
If you have the means, there are, I've seen a couple sources for Ukrainian, like, refugee, what is the word I'm looking for? A resource where you can send funds and they can get things like food and water.
Yeah, we could look into
whatnot.
that, and we'll post something on
the group,
or we'll mention it. We'll mention it on next week's podcast.
I know Mila Kunis, she's got
her and Ashton Kutcher.
Yep, they've got
stuff and
a charity that they're working with.
But if you are going to do a charity, which I hope some learned after last year,
please
devoting
double check
to
and make
charities,
sure that charity's
double
legit.
check, read the fine print, read the websites.
Yeah, see
how
how much of your actual
read the whole
donation
things.
helps the people.
Yeah, or if you just find out that the group is actually a legitimate group, know. So,
yeah, that too.
So with that being said, we hope you have a wonderful day, a lovely week.
And make good choices.
Take care.